Some massive news has circulated around the league once again, talking about how Kevin Durant is disgruntled with his situation with the Phoenix Suns. And as the trade market is opening up, the Chicago Bulls could be a team looming to acquire him, along with some other Phoenix Suns stars. We're going to get into more of that in this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 88% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure to go down below, hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and you won't have to search for this content anymore. Everything you need to know about the Chicago Bulls is right here for you, and we will keep you up to date as necessary. So without further ado, let's get in the first topic of today, and that is a move to change the Bulls' future. So there are multiple things out there, and there's a lot of different trade, mock trades being created and trade machines, different things like that we're going to get into. There's actually an article from GoPhoenix.com that we're going to be citing in this, and the thing that sparked all of my interest among this was actually a tweet that came out talking about Kevin Durant not being happy, and where the Bulls are looking to be very aggressive within the trade market, it would make perfect sense for them to go and make a push to try to acquire him. Why not make another push if you can move Lavine and get Durant, or something along the lines of that without having to blow up the team too much? We become a very solid playoff team right away. Any team in the league can, with Kevin Durant on their roster. This tweet right here was, the Sun can feel KD's frustration with current roster per Woj. And obviously there's the link there to more of the story that they had from Bleacher Report tweeting that out. And that's what led us to believe here at Bulls Digest that the Bulls should definitely make a push towards Kevin Durant. There was actually an article that came out a while ago in which we did not cover on the Suns looking to make a few moves, and they came out and some Suns media said that there were some moves they could make with the Chicago Bulls. So we're going to get right in that article right away. It actually was titled, and by Gerald Bourget, I believe it is, saying some way too early Suns trades for the 12 days of Christmas. So this actually put out on December 21st and was citing another article that was put out about November around that time. And this is what they had to say on GoPhoenix.com. It started with the honorable mentions, and a Suns trade that probably won't happen would be Alex Caruso going to the Suns and the Bulls getting Nasir Little, Damian Lee, who is currently out with an injury and surgery, a 2024 second-round pick from the Spurs, a 2026 second-round pick from Detroit, Milwaukee, or Orlando, and a 2028 second-round pick from Memphis. This trade would work, and would I do a trade like this? Absolutely not. The value is nowhere near there. Nasir Little is a solid role player, but nowhere near the caliber of Alex Caruso, with Damian Lee right now, with a serious injury, and the fact that he just really isn't that great of an NBA pro, along with some second-round picks, is not enough to make up the value of Alex Caruso. Just because the salaries match does not mean it is the right trade to be made. I think a better trade would be if they were able to trade Lavine, plus in order to acquire Durant, where he is 35 years old right now. What is the trade market on Kevin Durant at this current moment? And that's something they'd really need to find out a little bit more of, and maybe that's something they could really push to try to achieve, is getting Durant at all means necessary. The next thing we saw was Caruso isn't the floor general Phoenix needs, but he's another tenacious on-ball defender who stands a better chance of contributing on offense than Josh Okogie and Jordan Goodwin currently do, thanks to his 9.6 points per game on 46.8% shooting from the three-point range. And obviously that's correct. I mean, he is better than Josh Okogie or definitely Jordan Goodwin, who's barely an NBA player, in my opinion. But when it comes to Josh Okogie, he's not creating much of anything. He's up and down with the shooting stroke if it's there at all. And you can see Caruso is just a much higher IQ player than that of Josh Okogie, and that's pretty plain to see. Next thing was Caruso's team-friendly $9.4 million contract doesn't fit within any of the Suns trade exceptions, so it'll probably take Nasir Little and one of the veteran minimum guys to make the deal work financially. Bol Bol's $2 million contract isn't enough, but Damian Lee's $2.5 million salary works. So that's probably why they came to the conclusion of that. They want to basically get back as most they can for as little as they can offer in that situation. So that trade is absolutely horrible and stinks, and I would not at all try to pursue something like that. The next thing we saw was, unfortunately, unless the Chicago Bulls really coveted little as part of their rebuild, they're not selling this low. Remember not that long ago when they set the price for Caruso, 2 first-round picks? Yeah, the Suns aren't matching that. They can't even match 1 first-round pick, which is why another team would more than likely be outbid Phoenix once the Bulls trade deadline fire sale begins. I think the sale has started already. I wouldn't necessarily call it a fire sale in the sense of they just want to get rid of whatever they can right now. It's looking at the options they have on the table, trading the players and the pieces they need in order to do a retool at the very least at this stage in time, and then seeing what you can change the team into after Lavine isn't there, more so than just a fire sale, quote unquote. The next thing we saw was a trade of Andre Drummond to go to the Phoenix Suns, which would move a 2028 second round pick for him. I mean, I guess if they really didn't want Drummond, there's not really a point to do this at all. It is a second round pick. It's far in the future in 2028. I mean, it's fine. I don't really overvalue Drummond too much, but on such a good deal that Drummond's on, why even move him at all? It doesn't really make too much sense unless they were really not happy with Drummond's services, which I don't think he's been bad enough to trade away for a future second round pick. He is definitely worth getting at least some sort of a player for that could at least maybe get some minutes at the end of the bench and maybe a second round pick as well, but more than just a second in the future. Next thing we saw was an underwhelming option to be sure, but Drummond is quietly having a nice season in Chicago. Simply having a pulse as a more physical paint presence will be better than continuing to waste a roster spot on someone who never sees the floor anyway. So they're talking about, obviously, Bol, I believe, in this situation. When it comes to the Suns, not really getting guys out there on the floor to back up Nurkic. Nurkic having to play a bigger role. They're playing guys out of position. I know Chimezie Metu had a very good game on Christmas Day. I believe it was like 23 and 19. So he could be an answer for them as well. But is that sustainable? I really don't think so. So that would be why they would be looking for another big man. But Drummond is definitely better than a guy who just has a pulse. Let's be real, he is a solid backup. Although he can't finish some layups on the fast break sometime, I will agree. And his defense is just not that good anymore. It wasn't really that great to begin with, but it was enough to be about average before when he was on Detroit. And now we're looking at a guy who can still grab so many rebounds that the other team has to game plan for his offensive rebounding, which is what you're looking for out of a second or third string center, and has value at that aspect for sure. The next thing we saw is in his age 30 season, Drummond is putting up 6 points, 7 rebounds, and a steal in just 13 minutes per game. Despite their recent 7-3 stretch, the Bulls are still probably heading for a restructuring of some sort at the deadline, at which point many of their role players will become available. And that's true. I mean, we could definitely see a big change on the bench at the very least. However, I really do hope that Lavine is moved before any of those things. Not to say that I'm completely done with Zach Lavine, but it seems like the team is better off without him. So right now, if we can get good value, it's time to pounce on this right away before it gets too late and his trade value becomes stale, so to speak. The next thing that we saw was Drummond represents an easy, albeit unsexy, way to bolster Phoenix's center depth behind Nurkic, and Eubanks providing another imposing rebounder. Unfortunately, this should be a last resort, considering he doesn't solve any of this team's issues with rim protection. So from their point of view, yes, he is not a rim protector. That's not who Drummond is. He's a big body that gets rebounds and creates second chance points. That's exactly what he does right now in the NBA, and that's about it. And that's still a solid player in my opinion, and he does sneakily get a good few steals for a backup center, as it was seen there one a game. He's always been pretty good in the steals department as a center in the league for sure, and there is some value in that as well, as he's a guy that gets steals, and even guys who start don't get near as many steals as Drummond. So that's pretty important to mention there on a per 36 basis, of course. Now, the next thing and the last thing that we saw in this was Torrey Craig being acquired once again by the Bulls. I mean, you can see what they said there, make it 3 years in a row, that'd be funny. But I could see the Suns getting Torrey Craig for sure. I mean, 2 second-round picks to value him more than Drummond, I understand because of the three-point shooting and defense. But still, once again, I don't think the Bulls should make any moves for Torrey Craig if it comes to this. These offers that I read in this article that were floating around all over Twitter, which is why I wanted to cite this, are just not proper. I think a better deal would be Zach Lavine for Kevin Durant, or even if we are unable to get Kevin Durant and he would have to go to another team, or just stay with the Suns on a restructured roster over there. I think at the very least we could acquire the injured Bradley Beal, and hopefully his health can maintain higher, or we could flip him for some other assets. As long as we wouldn't have to give up too much on our end, it could almost be a 1-for-1 swap. Lavine for Beal, if not the Suns having to add more on their end. It really depends on the value in those two, which is really hard to see right now, but the Suns maybe, had to pay a little bit too much for Beal. It's hard to say right now in the NBA when it comes to players going down with injuries and how much that could tank their overall value. This has been your host, Joey Mercer. This has been another episode of Bulls Digest. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to go down below, hit the like button, comment on the video. Love to hear what all of you have to say. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's completely free, of course. And yeah, we'd love to see you guys enjoying the content. Turn on the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one.